Good evening, all. I hope you are able to see the screen and my voice is audible. Can you please confirm me that? So welcome to batch 8 on GitHub Actions, Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes, and Terraform online live training. This is the third session, whereas in the previous two sessions, which we have focused on understanding the syllabus, addressing your questions, and then in the yesterday's session, we have talked about what is Maven, why do we need Maven, what actually Maven will do for Java-based projects, the essentials of Maven we have discussed. In today's session, we are going to look into some more concepts related to Maven along with the application deployment. So this will be before I keep everything in front of you, this will be the last session, which is free of cost from Monday, that is from 16th February. Those who wants to join the live and regular sessions, which are going to happen at 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. from Monday to Friday, you have to pay the fee, and the meeting link will not be valid. Whatever the meeting link that you have joined in these 3 days, including today, this meeting link will not be valid from Monday's session. So to receive the meeting link and to join the WhatsApp group, which is dedicated for batch 8, you need to pay the registration fee. And if you have any questions related to the registration fee, you may require to contact me personally also if you have any questions, or otherwise directly you can do the payment. So this is the phone number where you can contact me personally if you have any questions with that. And if you still have any further questions, I'll be addressing your questions once we complete discussing the entire concept, what we need to talk today. Right. So generally, developers are going to provide the source code in the GitHub repository. Development team develops the code, testing team will test the code. And once both development team and testing team approves the code, then we need to, as a DevOps engineer, we need to deploy that application into the servers. But in order to do the deployment, first we need to have the infrastructure. That means EC2 instances, VPC network, whatever the essential items that are required to deploy that application, we need to set up that infrastructure. And once the infrastructure setup is completed, then we are good to go with the deployment. Now, generally, we have two types of application deployments. Generally, we have two types of application deployments. The first one is called as a manual deployment. The first one is known as manual deployment. And the second one is known as a automated deployment. Manual deployment and automated deployment. In today's session, we are going to learn about the manual deployment concept, whereas from Monday's session, we are going to work with automated deployment. So first, we'll try to understand what is manual deployment, how to do the manual deployment, and in order to do the deployment, especially for Java-based projects, what web servers do we need? And then we will do the application deployment. Once the application deployment is successful, then we will understand the limitations of manual deployment. Whereas we will try to automate the deployment in a better way. Right. So these are the two types of application deployments. One is the manual deployment, and the second one is automated deployment. Doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm sorry. There was some network issue. Can you please confirm me? Are you able to see the screen?
Yes,
Is my screen visible?
yes.
Yeah, right. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah. So it doesn't matter which type of deployment you are choosing, whether it is a manual deployment or automated deployment, the flow of application deployment will remain same, which is, as a DevOps engineer, you are responsible to create the infrastructure. You are responsible to create the infrastructure. That is in the form of EC2 instances, VPCs, IAM users, IAM roles, creating the access keys and secret keys for an IAM user, attaching the permissions to the IAM user, creation of S3 buckets, creation of RDS instances. Like this, you need to set up the infrastructure. Once the infrastructure setup is completed, then we need to do the deployment of application. We need to do the deployment of application. But how do we do the application deployment? For that, we need to get the source code of the application. We need to get the source code of the application, which is available in the GitHub repository. Once we get the source code of the application, as a developer, as a DevOps engineer, we need to build the code. We need to build the code, which means we need to generate the artifacts. We need to generate the artifacts. Yesterday's session, we have seen, based on the type of application, if it's a standalone application, we are going to have jar file as an artifact. If it is a web application, we are going to have war file as an artifact. If it is an enterprise application, we will have EAR file as an artifact. So you are going to generate the artifact by using Maven as a build tool. By using Maven as a build tool. Using Maven, please mute this. Yeah. Using Maven, we are going to generate the artifact. We're going to generate the artifact. Once you have the artifact, you need to deploy that artifact into the servers. Logically, here in AWS, we will create a EC2 instance, Elastic Compute Cloud. The full form of EC2 is Elastic Compute Cloud. So we will do the application deployment into the EC2 instance. But how do we do that? Just like if we have an EC2 instance, can we directly deploy that artifact into the EC2 instance? It is not possible. It is not possible. So how do we deploy the artifact into the EC2 instance which we have? EC2 instance which we have. So to deploy the artifact, we need web servers. We need a web servers or a web server, for example, web server. Now, what is this web server and what are the different types of web servers that we have, particularly for Java application deployments? We will see Python based in the later cases, but let's just focus on Java based. So to do the artifact deployment, we need a web server. So what are the web servers that we have commonly available in the market? We have Apache Tomcat. We have JBoss. JBoss is another type of web server. WebLogic, WebSphere. Like these, we have different types of web servers. Even Nginx also will come here. But Nginx cannot be used for Java application deployments. So we have different web servers. What these web servers are going to do? They are going to help you to deploy the artifacts which are generated for Java applications. So here what we will do is, using Maven, we will generate the artifact. That is a Java war file. And then using Tomcat, we will deploy the application. Now, how do we set up Tomcat? So first we will launch an EC2 instance. In that EC2 instance, we are going to install and configure the Tomcat. We are going to install and configure Tomcat. Once we install and configure Tomcat, then we will be able to access Tomcat user interface. In the Tomcat user interface, we are going to upload the artifact. We are going to upload the artifact. Once the artifact is successfully uploaded, then application deployment will happen. Once the application is successfully deployed, end users will be able to access the application. This is what the complete flow that we are going to see it now. So we'll launch an EC2 instance. Before launching the EC2 instance, we should already have the artifact. So generate the artifact. Once you have the artifact, then launch an EC2 instance, install and configure Tomcat. Tomcat UI you will be able to access, and then upload the artifact, and then do the application deployment, and then end users will be able to access the application. Before we follow this entire process, let us have a brief overview about what is a Tomcat. Tomcat is one of the most popular web servers that we have for Java application deployment. Tomcat is one of the most popular web servers that is available for Java-based deployments or Java application-based deployments, Java app-based deployments. Particularly which type of deployments? The WAR files. Jar files are for standalone applications. WAR files are for web applications. Now you may have a question. Yesterday you told that jar files are also used for Spring Boot applications. Then how do we deploy Spring Boot applications? We'll see it over a period of time. You will understand it. When we go to Docker concept, we will understand it in a much better way. But for time being, let us just focus on how do we deploy the WAR file which is generated for the Java web application. So here, Apache is the name of the organization which is owned by Tomcat, which owns Tomcat. Apache is the name of the organization, and Tomcat is the name of the web server. So that's why we call it as Apache Tomcat. Do we need to pay anything to do the application deployment into the Tomcat? No. Tomcat is open source software. And it is free of cost. You just have to download the Tomcat tar file from the official website and then do the configurations. That's it. Your Tomcat is ready. So Tomcat is an open source software and it is free of cost. The most important thing is to work with the Tomcat, we need to install Java. Why Java is required? Because Tomcat is developed by using Java programming language. So to work with Tomcat, first you need to install Java. And another important factor is Tomcat runs on port number 8080, which is the default port number of Tomcat. Can we change the port number of Tomcat? Yes, we can change the port number of Tomcat. There will be a file called server.xml file. In that XML file, we can change the Tomcat port number. When we do some projects in Jenkins, we will get that situation where we need to change the port number of Tomcat. We will see it there. So Tomcat runs on port number 8080. That's a default port number. But if you want, you can change the port number of Tomcat. So that is in simple terms about Tomcat. Now, how do we download Tomcat? As I said earlier, we need to go to official website of the Tomcat, Apache Tomcat 9 download. Tomcat 9 is the latest one. So go to apache.org where you will be able to download Tomcat 9th version. If you see here, the latest version which is running is 9.0.115. And here you can see there is a zip file. Just click on that file. The zip file will get downloaded into your local. But before we work with that Tomcat setup and all that part. What we will try to do is we will try to understand the folder structure of Tomcat. The folder structure of Tomcat, which is very, very important to work with. Folder structure of Tomcat. I'm just showing in the local, but in a while, we will launch an EC2 instance and we'll set up in the EC2 instance only. Anything that we have to do, it should be done through cloud only, technically. Right. So let us understand Tomcat folder structure. Tomcat folder structure. In Tomcat, we majorly have five major folders we need to understand. The first one is called as a bin. Bin means binaries. Bin means binaries. That is zeros and ones. Zeros and ones. What this bin folder consists of? What this bin folder consists of? Bin folder consists of, it contains the files which are related to start and stop the Tomcat server. Start and stop the Tomcat server. Let's say you have downloaded the Tomcat, you have extracted the tar file of the Tomcat. Now you need to start the Tomcat server. If you don't want, you need to stop the Tomcat server. For that, we will have some files inside bin folder. Bin folder. What are those files? Suppose if you are using a Linux operating system, let's say you have launched an EC2 instance with Amazon Linux, Ubuntu, or Red Hat, anything. All these things comes under Linux distributions only. So if you are working with Linux operating system, then we will use shell files, .sh files. So we have one file which is called as a startup.sh, which is used to start the Tomcat server. We have another file which is called as shutdown.sh, which is used to stop the Tomcat server. So we will just run the shell files. I hope you already have an idea about how to run the shell files. Startup.sh, shutdown.sh. How do you run? You can run by giving the permissions, or directly you can run sh space file name. Sh space file name, startup.sh. So that that file will run. Whatever configurations that are there inside that file, that configurations will run. That is one way. Another way is // startup.sh. That is another way of running the shell files. But for those of you who don't have an idea about what is the shell scripting and that part, in my YouTube, I have already created one playlist on shell scripting. There are 6 videos are available where I have discussed the complete in and out, whatever is required for the DevOps engineers to learn shell scripting. That is all provided here. Along with that, on day 6 session, I have provided complete real-time scenarios which are mostly used by the DevOps engineers. Probably you can go through this if you don't have an idea about what is shell scripting and how do we work with shell scripting. Even whether you're joining the sessions or not joining the sessions, that is secondary part, but you can look into these videos if they are helpful to you. Coming back. So if you are working with the Linux-based operating systems, we will use the startup.sh to start the Tomcat server, shutdown.sh to stop the Tomcat server. What if I'm using Windows-based operating systems? Windows-based operating system. Generally, we don't use it in real time. But let's say if you are using Windows-based operating systems, we have a file called batch files. That is startup.bat, which is used to start the Tomcat server, shutdown.bat, which is used to stop the Tomcat server. Let's go and verify them. If you go to the bin folder, which is binaries, inside that you can see shutdown, which is a sh file, startup, which is a sh file. Sh means a shell file. You can see startup Windows batch file, shutdown Windows batch file. Anyway, we don't use Windows operating systems in the real-time scenarios. It is all Linux, Ubuntu, Red Hat based operating systems only. But these two are the files which are required to start and stop the Tomcat server based on the operating system that you are using. That's the first folder and its files which are important. The second one is known as a conf folder, which has configuration files. Configuration files. It contains the files which are required to set up the Tomcat admin dashboard, and also if you want to change the port number of Tomcat by any chance in future, if you want to change the port number of Tomcat in future, that particular file will also be available in the conf directory. So it contains the files which are required to set up the Tomcat admin dashboard, and also the file which contains to change the port number of Tomcat. The default port number is 8080. If you want to change, you can change. How do we set up a Tomcat admin dashboard? So to set up the Tomcat admin dashboard, we will have a file which is called as Tomcat users.xml. Tomcat users.xml. In this file only, we are going to set up the Tomcat admin information, which we will see it in a while. And the next file is server.xml file. Using this file, we can change the Tomcat port number. If you want to change the Tomcat port number, we need to open the server.xml file and we need to do the configurations. Port number configurations. Let's verify that also. Go to conf directory or conf folder. Inside that, you have Tomcat users.xml file and server.xml file. Remember one file which is a Catalina file, catalina.sh file. It's a shell file basically. We will talk about this file in the Docker sessions where we need to understand one thing there. But for time being, we don't have to bother about this file. So for time being, Tomcat users.xml file for admin dashboard setup, server.xml file to change the port number of Tomcat. Right. The next folder, which is important, is lib. Lib means libraries. So what this lib folder contains? It contains all the jar files of the applications. It contains all the jar files. By default, in real-time scenarios, we don't develop the standalone applications. Developers don't develop the standalone application. Mostly it is web applications only. So for web applications, we have var files. But let's say you have a jar file. The application is a web standalone application. Now for standalone application, jar file will get generated. So how do we set up or how do we deploy the jar file of the application? We will deploy into the lib folder. If you go to lib folder, there will be default jar files which will be available. You can see them. Executable jar files. This lib folder contains only jar files, nothing else. Only jar files. All standalone applications, jar files will be provided inside the lib folder. That is libraries. And the next one, which is the most important folder for DevOps engineers, which is web apps. That means web applications. This folder is also known as deployment folder. Why do we call that as a deployment folder? Because in this folder, we will deploy the var files of the application. In this folder, we will deploy the var files of the application. Whatever var files that you are going to get for your applications, all those var files you are going to deploy into the web apps folder. Let me show you that. Go to web apps, and here is where you are going to deploy the web apps folder, var file basically, var file of the application. Inside this web apps folder, you have two subfolders which are important. One is called as manager, and the second one is called as a host manager. Manager and host manager. Inside manager, again, you will have one directory, one folder which is called as a meta-inf. Inside this meta-inf, you will have a file which is called as a context.xml file. This is the very, very important file whenever you want to do the application deployments. These configurations we need to work. Same file will also be available inside host manager directory also. So whenever you are deploying the applications into the Tomcat, it is mandatory to modify this context.xml file, which is available in manager directory and host manager directory. Manager directory, you can see manager folder. Inside manager, you have meta.inf. Inside meta.inf, context.xml. Same file will also be available in the host manager also. Host manager, meta.inf, context.xml. These two files, we need to do the configurations. Only then we will be able to do the application deployments. So these are the four important folders. Bin folder, which contains to start and stop the Tomcat server. Conf folder, which is used to set up the Tomcat admin dashboard and the change of port number of Tomcat. Lib libraries, web apps, which contains the var file deployments and context.xml file. The remaining files, logs, it just have the server logs. Temp, it's just a temporary folder. Work, it has nothing. It's basically a workspace directory kind of. Nothing much. The remaining things, they are all just README files and basic files on documentation kind. So this is what your Tomcat folder structure is. Tomcat folder structure is. So now what we will do is, let us go and deploy the application into the Tomcat web server. For that, what we are going to follow is, we are going to launch one EC2 instance. Assume this is my EC2 instance. This is my EC2 instance in the AWS cloud. I'm just directly writing the EC2 instance here. Obviously, it is there in the AWS cloud. So EC2 instance. Any region, you can launch in any region of your convenience. I believe you have an idea about what is region, what is availability zone, and all those things, because this course expects that basics for you to have an idea. So I'm going to launch the EC2 instance in some region. So that EC2 instance, I'll be launching in Mumbai region. Any region you can launch, no problem. That's completely up to you. I'm going to launch in Mumbai region. And the instance I'm going to AMI, I'm going to use is Amazon Linux 2023 AMI, which is the latest one. Amazon Linux 2023 AMI, I'm going to work with. I'm going to install. And then I am going to go with the instance type, which is t2.micro. If you don't have an access to t2.micro, you can also select t3.micro. In the latest AWS accounts, those who have created the AWS accounts from last July, that is 2025 July, you are not having t2.micro instance accessibility. You will have t3.micro instance accessibility. Anyway, you can select any one. And then once we select the instance type, then we are going to create a key pair, which is used to connect with that instance. And here particularly, I am going to use .pem file to connect with that instance. Why I am using .pem file? Because in order to connect with that instance, I am going to use a third-party tool, which is called as MobaXterm. This is your MobaXterm tool. If you don't have an idea about this MobaXterm tool, maybe you can download it. But if you don't have an idea, again, on basic AWS concepts, again, there is one playlist on my YouTube channel, which will help you to understand the fundamentals, very basic level fundamentals regarding the S3 service. You can see a couple of things here. The AWS global architecture, how to create a bucket and all those things, and followed by from somewhere here. Yeah, from 14th day, I have talked about EC2 service. What is EC2? What are the different types of instances? Like this, I have mentioned about a few information. Those who don't have an idea about EC2, AWS, these things, probably this playlist will help you to get an overall idea about what is EC2, what is AWS, and all that part. But again, this course doesn't help you to teach all those things. So that's why I'm not going to touch those aspects. But you can get it from any other sources, not just from this playlist. So we are going to create one key pair, which is used to connect with that instance. That's a creation of key pair. And then networking settings. We are going to choose the default VPC. In every AWS cloud, whenever you create an AWS account, in every AWS region, you will get one default VPC. So we'll select the default VPC only. No need to create custom VPC. It's not required at the moment, at this level of learning. So network, we are going to select the default VPC. And we will have storage, which is basically the EBS volume. So by default, you are going to get 8 GB capacity. That is more than sufficient, or you can increase up to 30 GB. No problem. 30 GB you'll get free of cost. 8 GB by default you'll get. You can increase up to 30 GB, which is free of cost. So with these configurations, we are going to launch the EC2 instance. I'm going to launch the EC2 instance. And in this EC2 instance, we are going to install Tomcat. We're going to install Tomcat. But before installing Tomcat, we are going to install Java. We are going to install Java, either Java 17, 21, whichever versions you can use. You can go with that. 21, 24, 25. The latest ones, if you have any, that also you can install. It is mandatory to install Java. It is mandatory to install Java. And it is also mandatory to install Maven. Why Maven? Maven is used to build. Maven is used to build the code, generate the artifact. So these two we are going to install in the EC2 instance. Along with that, we need to get the source code. If you want to work with Maven, let's say I want to build the code. So for that, you need code. So for that, you need to install Git also. So these are the three tools that we are going to install in our EC2 instance. Along with these three tools, we are also going to install Tomcat. We're going to install and set up Tomcat. This is my Tomcat server. This is my Tomcat. So Tomcat web server. Now you can call this EC2 instance as a Tomcat server or Tomcat web server. You have to do the configurations. As I said earlier, we need to do few file changes. That is, the first one is Tomcat users.xml. First, we need to start the Tomcat server. That's a fundamental thing. That is /startup.sh. That is to start. /shutdown.sh. That is to stop. Once you start the Tomcat server, then we are going to do the configuration changes. First thing is Tomcat users.xml file, and the second one is context.xml file. So in these files, you are going to make the configuration changes. Once you make the configuration changes, what you will do is for every EC2 instance, you will get one security group. You'll get a security group. For that security group, we are going to open port number 8080. Why port number 8080? Because Tomcat runs on that port number only. So how do we access Tomcat here? Public IP address of the instance, the port number of Tomcat, which is 8080. So that you will be able to access the Tomcat Tomcat user interface. This is what the exact setup that we are going to see it now. So I hope up to here it is clear for everyone. If you have any questions, I will take your questions in the later part. Now, I'm currently there in the AWS cloud, particularly in the Mumbai region. If you don't have an AWS account, it is mandatory to create one AWS account, because every session that we do from today will be done on AWS cloud only. So go to EC2. This is the service where you can launch the virtual machines. That is EC2 instances. So let me click on launch instance here, so that we'll be able to launch the instance. So I have just said some time back the configurations. With the same configurations, we are going to launch the EC2 instance. So I'll just give the name to the server or name to the instance as a Tomcat server. Any name you can give. That's just a name to an EC2 instance, Tomcat server. And then I'm going to select Amazon Linux, which is 2023 AMI. You can go with Ubuntu, you can go with Red Hat also, but no point in going with the Mac or Windows. It's not required. They don't be used in the real-time scenarios. Right. So let's go with Amazon Linux over a period of time in our live sessions also, we'll see how to work with Ubuntu also. Okay, how to work with Ubuntu and even Red Hat also. All right. Instance type, I'm going to go with T2.micro. But if you don't have T2.micro, as I said, you can go with T3.micro also, or whichever is possible, whichever is available in your AWS region, you can go with that particular server. I mean, that particular instance type. Key pair, if you have already the key pair, you can select from the existing key page, or otherwise you can create a new key pair also. Let's assume I want to create a new key pair. Let's say create a new key pair, enter the key pair name, any name you can enter. Let's say I'll just enter as a Tomcat batch 8, or let's say key pair batch 8. Any name, I'm just entering some key pair batch 8. Anything that is just a name. Okay. And key pair type is RSA, file format PEM, because I'm going to use a MobileXterm to connect with the server. If you are using puttygen, or if you are using a git bash terminal, then you can go with ppk file also. But I am not going to go with them with puttygen or git bash terminals, because those have some limitations. MobileXterm has some wide features, so that's why I'm going to go with .pm. Okay, and then click on create key pair. Once you click on create key pair, the key pair will be downloaded into your local. You can see the key pair which is downloaded to local. Now this is your key pair which is used to connect with the server. Make sure this key pair must be in a safe and secure location. If you lose the key pair, you will not be able to connect with the instance using third-party tools like MobileXterm. So make sure once you have the key pair, keep it in a secure location for future purposes. Okay, whenever you launch any instances in the Mumbai region, for all the instances, you can use a common key pair. Instead of creating multiple key pairs, you can use a single key pair for one region, and every time you can select that key pair from the dropdown. That's one way of simplifying the task. And then network settings, as I said earlier, I'm going to go with the default VPC, and I'll create a new security group. And this is the name of the security group. By default, it will come. In your case, the name will change. It may be Launch Wizard 7, Launch Wizard 1, 2, 3, whatever number it can be. I have already created 6 security groups. That's why it is showing me the 7th security group, which I'm creating. This number, don't bother. That is a security group. And then select this box, which is to allow SSH traffic. Only if you select this box, then only you'll be able to connect with the server. Otherwise, you cannot. Because when you allow SSH connection, port number 22 will open. If you open port number 22, you will be able to connect with that instance. And then storage, by default, as I said, you'll get 8 GB storage. You can increase up to 30 GB. So you can increase up to 30 GB. Let's go with 30 GB. You don't know problem if you go with 8 GB also. 8 GB itself is more than sufficient. I'm just going with 30 GB. Right. And then the number of instances, I need only one instance. That's more than sufficient for me. And then click on launch instance. With this, we are ready to, we are able to launch the EC2 instance. Once the instance is successfully launched, then we are going to connect with that instance using MobileXterm tool. How do we connect? First, you should have download and install MobileXterm. It's just a tool. You can just go to browser and download and install MobileXterm. Here you can see session on the top right side, top left side, sorry. Session, click on session. This window will pop out. SSH, because we are trying to connect with SSH part. SSH way of connecting to the instance. So SSH, remote host. In the place of remote host, we need to provide the IP address of the server. Which IP address? For every instance, we will have 2 types of IP addresses. One is called as a public IP address. Let's say I select the instance. You will have under details the public IP address and a private IP address. When you are connecting with the server using third-party tools, then we need to go with the public IP address. If you want to communicate with the servers within the cloud, let's say I have 2 servers, I want to communicate from one server to another server, then we need private IP address. For internal communications, we need private IP addresses. For external communications, we need a public IP address. Now, I'm trying to connect with the instance using third-party tool. So we need public IP address. So copy the public IP address of the instance. Go to MobileXterm, session, In the place of remote host, paste the IP address of your instance. And then username. By default, all the Linux-based instances, all the Amazon Linux instances will have the username as EC2-user. I believe you already have an idea. This is basic cloud fundamentally. Amazon Linux instances will have EC2-user as the username. Suppose if you are launching a Ubuntu instance, Ubuntu-based instance, then the username is Ubuntu. Username is Ubuntu. So currently we have launched Amazon Linux instance, so the username will be EC2-user. EC2-user. Port number, that's a default port number, which is 22, using which we'll be able to connect with that instance. And then click on Advanced SSH settings, use private key, click on the file icon, and then select the PEM file which you have just downloaded. So copy, select this one, and then click on OK. Now we are able to connect with that instance. If you are seeing this bird logo, that means you are successfully connected with that instance. Let me clear the screen. Now, whenever you launch an EC2 instance, always first switch to the root user by using sudo su. Currently, I am the root user. And then update it, yum update -y. That is to update the existing packages. Once you update the packages, as I said earlier, we need to install Java, we need to install Git, we need to install Maven. So let's install one by one. So I have already kept the commands in the documentation for your idea. So this is the command which is used to install Java 21 version. Java 21. Let me paste that command so that Java 21 version will get installed. You can install Java 17 also, Java 11 also, Java 24 as well. But better to go with anything greater than or equals to Java 17 version. Don't go with lower versions. Okay, right. So now Java is installed. So Java space -- version. You can see Java 21 is successfully installed. And then we are going to install Maven also. Yum install Maven -y. So that Maven will also get installed, which is to build the code. And then the next thing that we need to install is Git. So let's verify Maven space -- version. You can see Maven is also available. The next thing is Git m install Git -y. Why I'm installing Git here? Because I want to get the source code, which is available in my GitHub repository. So for that, I am installing Git. I'm installing Git. Git is also available. Okay. Now, let us set up the Tomcat. Here I need to tell one thing, which I'll tell it in a while. Let us set up the Tomcat. How do we set up? Go to browser. Go to the website called Apache Tomcat org, just like how we went previously. We downloaded the zip file, right, sometime back. Now, zip file for Windows operating system. If you are working with Linux operating systems, then we need to go with the tar file. TAR, that's the extension of files. So go to tar file here, tar.zz. Keep the cursor on tar.zz file. Right click, copy link address. I repeat again. Keep the cursor on tar.zz file. Right click, copy link address. Copied. Now go to the instance. I want to download the tar file into my EC2 instance. For that, we have a Linux command called wget. Wget, and then paste the link. Hit enter. Now, if you do ls, you can see the tar file has got downloaded from the browser, from the network, from the internet. Now we need to extract the tar file. Just like how we got the zip file, we need to extract the zip file. Same way, here also, we need to extract the tar file. How do we extract? Tar space -xvf, the file name. Tar space -xvf file name. Tar file has got extracted into a directory. If you do ls, you can see it got extracted into a directory. Let's go into the directory by using the cd command, change directory. Hit enter. Inside this, I have the directory structure. Now what we need to do, we need to start the Tomcat server. Where the files will be available? Inside bin directory. So let's go into the bin directory, cd space bin. What files we have to start the Tomcat server? Startup.sh. How do we start? /file name. file name. Now Tomcat has got started. Now, as I said earlier, Tomcat is going to run on port number 8080. So for that, let us first open the port number 8080 in the security group of the instance. So select the instance, go to security. Under that, you can see an option called security groups. Security groups. Under that, you will have the security group link. So open that link. I'm just opening in a new tab. And here you need to open the inbound rule. Currently, only port number 22 is open. Now we need to open port number 8080. Inbound rules, edit inbound rules, add rule, type is custom TCP, port number is 8080. Source is anywhere IPv4. And then click on save rules. With this, you have opened the Tomcat port number also. Now let me copy the public IP address of the instance. Go to a new tab, paste the IP address, and Tomcat is running on 8080 port number. Hit enter. You will be able to see the home page of Tomcat. Home page of Tomcat. But this is just a home page. Let's see, if I click on server status, you see access denied. If you click on manager app, access denied. You click on anything, host manager, access denied. Why? Because you have just to set up the Tomcat. That's it. Home page only will be able to access it. Now, I want to work with the Tomcat admin dashboard. I told you some time back. If you want to access a Tomcat admin dashboard, we need to edit a file called Tomcat users.xml file. Along with that, we also need to edit this context.xml files, which are there in manager and host manager directories. These are configurations which you must do to access the Tomcat admin dashboard. So those configurations information I have already given here. You can see edit the context.xml file in manager and host manager directory. Just copy paste this entire thing. That is just a configuration which I got it from the official documentation on nothing much. I'll just copy this thing. Now let's come out of the bin directory. Now where those files are available, these files, context.xml file is available in manager and host manager directory. Where are those manager and host manager directories? Inside web apps. So cd space web apps. Inside web apps, you have manager. Inside manager, you have meta inf, cd space meta inf. Inside meta inf, you have context.xml. So open that file in VI mode. You have the file. Delete everything that is there in the file. No need to keep anything. How do you delete? Colon %d. You can see at the bottom of the screen, colon %d. So that everything in that file will get deleted. Now you have the configuration. No? So copy this entire thing and just paste it here. That is just a configuration that you can, if you want to know more information about that, you can refer the official documentation. That is just a configuration. Escape colon WQ. Come out of the file. Now we have edited the context.xml file, which is in manager directory. Now let's do the same thing in the host manager directory also. Let's go back, cd space dot dot. I'm currently there in the web apps directory. Let's go into host manager. Inside host manager, let's go to meta inf. Inside meta inf, let's open context.xml file again. This is in different location. The first one is manager location. Now we are in host manager location. So in both locations, you need to edit colon %d. Edit the delete the complete content and paste the content which is there. Escape colon w. That's it. That's a first thing that you need to do. And coming back to Tomcat home directory. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to edit the Tomcat users.xml file. Tomcat users.xml file. Where is that file? Inside the conf directory. cd space conf. Inside conf, you can see Tomcat users.xml. vi Tomcat users.xml. I'm just opening that file. Go to the bottom of the page. Go to the bottom of the page. And here you can see if you want to set up a Tomcat admin dashboard, this is the syntax. This is the syntax. So you can give role name, any role name here, username, password. Here you need to change whatever password that you want, you can set up that password. Whatever username that you want to set up, you can set up that username. The same file, the same content, I have just edited as per my requirement. I'm just copying this entire content. Role name is manager-GUI. This role is used to install the deploy the application into the Tomcat. So that's what this role is. And the role name, another role name is admin GUI. I want to access the admin dashboard. GUI means graphic user interface. So I want to access the admin dashboard. So that's why I'm creating admin GUI role name. And to access this admin dashboard, I am giving the username as admin, password as admin. You can change anything here. Don't change anything else except this username and password. Except this username and password. The rest of the configurations are required to access the Tomcat admin dashboard. If you don't have these configurations, you cannot access the Tomcat admin dashboard. Okay. Currently, my Tomcat username is admin. Password is also admin. escape:/WQ. That's it. Tomcat admin configuration also made. Now, the most important thing that you have to remember is whenever you do any changes in the conf directory, that means you are changing the configurations. It is recommended to stop the Tomcat server and to restart the Tomcat server. Start the Tomcat server, stop it and restart it. So cd space ... and I'll go to bin directory. Inside bin directory, I have shutdown.sh file. So let's shut down Tomcat. Now the Tomcat is stopped. Now restart it. How do you restart? Same file, startup.sh file. To stop shutdown.sh, to start startup.sh. Hit enter. Tomcat is started. Now let's go to the browser. Earlier, when I was clicking on server status, manager app or host manager, any option, I was seeing access denied. Now you don't see that. Click on server status. Let us verify that. Let me just close it. You can see it is showing access denied. We'll talk about this one. You can see, the access denied option is coming. Why? This is the important point. I told you earlier, we need to edit the context.xml file, which is in manager directory and host manager directory. I have edited that. Let us verify it one more time. I'll show you that. So cd space ... cd space. Where is this manager and host manager directory? Inside the web apps. So cd space web apps. Inside web apps, we have manager. Inside manager, we have meta-inf. Inside that, we have context.xml. You can see that is available. Let me delete everything and retry it once again. Paste it. escape:/W. So you can see this entire content as it is, you have to copy paste. Right. escape:/W. Start. Now the same thing, we need to do it in the host manager directory also. So cd space host manager. Inside host manager meta-inf. Inside that context.xml. This also will try to delete. And let me paste this content. Probably I might have missed one line. So let us paste. Let us do the same thing. :W. That's done. Let's come back. I'm currently there in Apache Tomcat directory. Now let's go into web apps folder. Let's go into the conf folder because we have Tomcat users.xml file. vi Tomcat users.xml. Inside the Tomcat users.xml, I have just pasted this content. Let me delete these lines and let me repaste everything. Let me paste this. escape:/W. Now I'm just using a Tomcat username as admin, password also as admin. That's it. Let's come back. cd space bin. Let me stop the Tomcat server. Tomcat server is stopped. Let me start the Tomcat server once again. /startup.sh. Now Tomcat is started. Let's go into this one. Let me just refresh it and let me verify it. It is showing manager status not available. So it is showing status not available. I think some update had happened. Resource manager is HTML is not available. Let us just verify that file. cd space cd space conf cd space. Let me just check with server.xml file. vi server.xml. So here you will have the port number of Tomcat, which is 8080. There will be one option called connector port. Show you that also. Connector port. Yeah, you can see connector port, which is 8080. Okay, this one also. 8080. If you want, you can change the port number here. But anyway, that is not our problem here. So we made all the configurations. Let us just look for ChatGPT. I'll just take this one because I think this is the latest version. So some changes might have come. So let us verify that. Manager app. Let me just give this one. So I'm working with Tomcat in the EC2 instance, which is installed using the Tomcat tar file. The version is 9.0.115. That's a version if I'm not wrong. Let's just verify that version. 9.0.115, yeah. I have made the below changes to access Tomcat admin dashboard. But when accessing using 8080 port, I'm unable to access the admin dashboard. The port number is opened in the security group of the instance where I'm able to access a Tomcat homepage. Let's view this error. This one and server status. I'll give all these errors so that it will help us to troubleshoot. Since the version has got updated, probably that could be the reason. Let's verify it. While the Tomcat homepage works, most host manager are not web apps are not deployed. First check CD path to Tomcat ls web apps. We should see web apps directory. Let's go into the web apps directory. CD space dot CD space web apps ls. I'm able to see all these things. My root manager, host manager, docs example. Yes, I'm able to see everything. Let us give that here. Let's also verify it. We don't have multiple Tomcats. Let's. The problem is not in web apps. So let's verify the logs also. It is asking to check the logs. So cd space dot ls cd space logs plus let's check into at catalina.org. So let's see that error. Let me copy this entire content and but we are not starting with Catalina file. Let's just tell that to ChatGPT. I'm starting Tomcat using startup.sh and shutdown.sh files. Okay, let's check this one. Let me just copy this entire thing and give the console output to ChatGPT. Context.xml, therefore context cannot be started occurred at line 3. Where context.xml is syntactically broken. Okay. Line 3. Okay, I think some issue with the context.xml. Replace everything with this clean version. Okay, let me just take this one. I think this is the older one, which is not working for the current one. So let me just take this one, context.xml. So cd space dot cd space now cd space web apps, inside web apps manager, inside manager meta inf context.xml. So let's open this one. Let's paste it. I think some syntax issue that is. So let's go to host manager. Inside host manager, meta inf. Inside meta inf, context.xml. Let me delete this also. Let's paste it. Escape colon public. That's done. CD space dot cd space bin. Let me just shut down Tomcat server and restart it. /startup.sh. Right. Let's go here and let me just refresh it. I believe now it's working. Yeah. So you have to enter the Tomcat username and password. So let Tomcat username is admin. Password is also admin. Let me update that in the documentation also, because in the latest versions, this is not working. So let me go with this one. Right. This documentation, anyway, it will be shared once you join the sessions. Right. So now we are able to access the Tomcat admin dashboard. Tomcat admin dashboard. If you just click on list applications, you will see some default applications which are available. Now you need to generate the var file for the application. For that, I already have the source code in my GitHub repository. You can also fork this particular repository as well. So let me just show you the repository which I'm going to use, this one. This repository. So in this repository, I have kept some source code which is related to a basic application. So don't bother about what application is all about. That developers will take care usually. So this one, batch 8 Java app. This is the application. So currently it's a private one. So let me change it to public. So scroll down, change visibility, change to public, make the repository public so that you can also use this repository when you are practicing. So let me just enter the code. Right. So I have the repository now. Now we need to generate the var file for the application. So what we need to do one thing is, we are going to download that particular repository into my EC2 instance. In the EC2 instance, we will generate the var file. But how do we deploy that var file into the Tomcat? For that, it is logically not possible. We are not automating, we are manually doing. So for that reason, we need to download this code into your local. Download the code into your local. Just click on download zip. The entire folder or the repository will get downloaded into your local. So what I have done for simplification purposes, I have already generated the var file for the application. So target, inside target, the var file is available. You need to just deploy this var file. But I'll show you how to generate the artifact in the EC2 instance. But that is what we need to do. But currently we are not automating it. We are manually doing it. So I'll just show you how to generate the var file in the EC2 instance and how to deploy that var file from the EC2 instance to Tomcat. We will see it when we integrate with Jenkins. So let me copy the GitHub repository URL. Go to your EC2 instance. The command is git clone, paste the repository URL. Now the entire repository will be cloned into your EC2 instance. You have the repository. So cd, go to the repository. Inside this repository, wherever your pom.xml file is available, from that location, you need to execute the Maven goals. We have seen that in the last session. First goal, let me just clean it. When you clean, what will happen? Target folder will get deleted. MVN clean. Since we have already installed Maven, what will happen? Maven goal will get executed. You see, build is success. What happened? Deleting. What it deleted? Target folder. Earlier we had target folder. Now you don't have. Now I want to package it. How do we package? NVN compile package. Or directly you can do package also. That will also work. NVN compile package. First compilation will happen, then packaging will happen. Where the compiled files will be there, that is .class files will be there inside the target folder. Where you will have the var file inside the target folder. You see, there is some issue here. Which is source option file is no longer supported. Use 7 hours later. What it is telling? It is telling the code which I have used to develop that application. It is an advanced version. That is 25 Java code I have used and I have developed it. And that is the reason it is showing that error. That you don't bother. That developer's problem. Just to show you this error, I'm doing this. If this kind of error comes up, what you have to do? You have to communicate with the developers. I'm using so-and-so version of the Maven. so-and-so version of the Java, but I'm unable to build the code. I'm unable to build the code. How do I do that? How do I do that? Then developers are going to develop the source code of the application. They'll update it. But that is just an error case to just show you. As I said already, I have generated the target folder, and inside which you will have the war file. Let me go to the target folder, which is downloaded into my local, into my EC2 instance. Let me extract that target folder. Extract the target folder. I mean, extract the complete directory. Go to that folder, target. You have the war file. Now take this war file and deploy into the server. How do you deploy? Go to the Tomcat. If you scroll down, you can see there is an option called a war file to deploy. War file to deploy. And you can see the option select war file to upload. You have the war file in your local. Choose a file. Choose file. Go to that folder where you have extracted. So you have extracted the folder, right? So go to that folder, target. Inside target, you have the war file. Select the war file. Double click it. Click on deploy. Once you click on deploy, you can see the application has got deployed. Application has got deployed. Let's verify whether that is successfully deployed or not. How do you verify? Click on that option. You should be able to see the application. You should be able to see the application. This is your application. This is the application. I'll give this URL in the chat box also. You can also check whether this application is accessible or not. You can also check whether this application is accessible or not. Just give me a second. I'll just paste that URL in the chat box. Right. I have just pasted. You can also verify it. Can you please confirm? Are you able to access the application? Everyone, are you able to access the application? Or at least any one of you? Just click on that link. You should be able to access the application. You're able to access? Anyone?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, right. Thank you. So this is how we will manually deploy the application. This is just an application which is related to this particular batch announcement. So where you are going to learn GitHub Actions, Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes, and Terraform. Along with this, the 10 plus additional tools also you are going to learn. So this is my current profile. And then these are the training modules and basic things that we are going to see it. Again, this entire application, I didn't develop it on my own. It was developed by using ChatGPT only. I'll show you how to develop the application using ChatGPT. In the live sessions itself, we'll show you. Okay, that is one thing. And then you can see the rest of the things and the additional tools which we are going to look after. That also you can see it here. And the training highlights, like the real world projects we are going to see, and the capstone projects, couple of them. And as I said, mock interviews, resume building, LinkedIn optimization, those things also I'll let you know. But these things will be focusing at the end. Okay, once the entire session gets completed. And then, as I said, batch has started on 12th February, which is day before yesterday. And the session timings from Monday will be 5 to 6:30 p.m. And the total duration will be 65 days, maximum 65 days, not more than that. And the fee is 9,000 rupees, which you are already aware of. And batch has already started, so that's why this countdown has stopped. So if you want to pay the fee, you can just connect. I mean, you can just contact this particular number, which is my number, and you know the things. So this is how we can deploy the application into the Tomcat web server. But what we have done is we have manually deployed the application. We have manually deployed the application. That is good. At least we have deployed it. But assume in this way, developer does the changes to the code. Developer does the changes to the code. Okay, developer does the changes and then commits the changes to the repository. Commits the changes to the repository. And once developer commits the changes, as a DevOps engineer, what you have to do, you need to clone the code into your local, that is into your laptop. Once you clone the code, what you have to do, you need to build the code, generate the artifact. Once you build the code, then upload the artifact. Upload the artifact. This is what manual deployment is. That is what exactly we have done. I have downloaded the code into my local. Assume developer has made changes. I have downloaded the updated code and then I'll build the updated code. I'll have the artifact, and then I'll re-upload the updated artifact. This is manual deployment. This is a manual deployment. But what we need in real time, we need automation deployment. What is automation deployment? Whenever a developer does the changes and commits the changes to the repository, you don't have to clone the code to your local. You don't have to manually build the code. You don't have to manually upload the artifact. This entire thing has to be automated. Has to be automated. Once the developer commits the updated code to the GitHub repository, automatically the code has to be built. The code has to be built using Maven and deployed to the Tomcat web server. This entire process should happen in an automated way. It can be Tomcat web server, it can be Docker container, it can be Kubernetes cluster, anything. But for time being, let us just focus on Tomcat web server. Now, how do we achieve this automation process? So to achieve the process of build and deployment, that is building the code using Maven, deployment to Tomcat. To achieve the process of build and deployment, we need to use CI and CD tools. We need to use CI and CD tools. What are the CI CD tools that we have? We have Jenkins. And we have GitHub Actions. We have Argo CD. We can use Jenkins as a CI and CD tool. GitHub Actions is purely a CI tool only. Argo CD is purely CD tool. Argo CD we will learn in Kubernetes. Till then we don't touch. Jenkins we will use both as a CI tool as well as a CD tool also. It's a CI and CD tool. We can do the integration, that is, we can do the build process, and by using Jenkins also we can do the deployment. So we'll go step-by-step process. First we will talk about Jenkins, and then we will talk about Docker, then we will talk about Kubernetes, then we will understand about GitHub Actions. Till then we don't touch GitHub Actions because it is a layer by layer exploring the paths. So we'll go in that way only. So from tomorrow, from the next session, that is from Monday session, we are going to see how to automate the build and deployment process by using a tool called Jenkins. So Jenkins will be there for 10 to 12 days or 10 to 13 days. We are going to learn Jenkins, everything in and out. Whatever is required, we'll be looking into Jenkins. So that is all from my end for this particular session. From Monday, that is from 16th February, we will be having the regular sessions where those sessions will be completely a paid sessions only. Those who are going to register for the training, few people have already registered, and I have added them into the WhatsApp group also. And I'll be giving you the Terraform access. Those who have already registered, I'll be giving you the Terraform videos access on Monday. Once I get complete registration, at a time I'll give complete access. Monday evening or Monday night, you can expect complete Terraform videos. Right. So that is completely from my end. If you have any questions, you can keep your questions now. Any questions for anyone? Okay, so if you don't have any questions, probably that's fine. So I'll just tell it as a closure thing. That is, the fee is Salman. Yeah.
So this process is for only monolithic application, I hope. For microservice is different in Tomcat, am I right?
Yeah, it is different. We don't deploy microservice applications in Tomcat. We'll deploy it in Kubernetes cluster or Docker containers.
Okay. So Tomcat will not be getting into picture for microservices?
No.
Okay. Thanks for clarification.
Yeah. Any other questions before I close it? Okay, let me just wind up. So the fee is 9,000 rupees. That is for one-time payment. Those who wants to do it on an installment price, the fee is 10,000. So 5,000 plus 5,000. So you can do the payment to this particular number, which you are seeing it on the screen, 97007 12459. Once the payment is made, please share your screenshot of the payment along with your name, email ID, and WhatsApp number to this particular number, where you have the WhatsApp also on this number. Once your payment is confirmed, you will be added to the WhatsApp group and you'll be shared with all the documents, whatever is essential, along with the Excel sheets and Google Drive link and all that part. Right. So that is all from my end. I hope to see you all in the live sessions. And I hope I'll give you the complete set of knowledge, whichever is essential in GitHub Actions, Jenkins, Docker, Kubernetes, and Terraform. So that is all from my end. Thank you all. Thank you once again. So those who have any questions before you register, you can also message me once the session gets completed. I'll be happy to answer your questions if you have any. Yeah. Thank you all. Thank you once again. Yeah, please.
The shell script you have shared in your YouTube, right? That's enough for.
That is sufficient to understand the fundamental shell scripting concepts. Okay. So if you don't have any questions, we can close the session. Thank you all. Thank you once again for joining. We'll meet on Monday's session.